Hi guys, welcome to today's issue of our Scary Stories segment. If you're a fan of horror, then you're in for a treat because the story we have for you today is one that will send chills down your spine. What is the scariest monster in your opinion? Write the comment. I found an old childhood photo. There's something terribly wrong with it. I found it while cleaning out the closet. An old photo, creased at the corners. It depicted a little boy sitting on a chair in the middle of a wallpapered kitchen. Blue eyes, blonde hair. I flipped it over and checked the date on the back. November 14th, 1996. So me, when I was 4. Except, the kid didn't look quite like me. The photo was grainy, so it was hard to tell for sure. But the eyes were a little too wide set. The smile was too toothy. So, a friend? But it was definitely my mom's kitchen. Floral wallpaper with pink rosettes, the old oak table. And the kid so closely resembled me, wouldn't I remember having a friend that looked like he could be my twin brother? And why isn't it with the other family photos? I'd found it in Mom's closet. She had several photo books, all populated with childhood photos, documenting the most insignificant events, from baking cookies to baseball games. So why wasn't this photo with the rest? Why was it hiding on the top shelf of my mom's closet, tucked under a hat box? I walked out into the family room, grabbed the photo album labeled 1995 to 1998. Paged through it until I got to a good, clear photo of myself at 4. Then I pulled the photo from my pocket and compared the two. It wasn't a great comparison. My head was tilted to the side, and his was straight. I was wearing a hat, he wasn't. Still, the difference was unmistakable. His grin was wider, toothier. His skin was paler. His eyes were wider set. Yet, the differences were subtle. To anyone but me, they'd probably look like the same person. "What are you doing?" I turned to see my mom, standing in the doorway, carrying a large box. I hesitated, wondering if I should bring it up to her. She had enough on her mind, with my stepdad passing away and the big move. "I found this photo." "Who is that?" She set the box down and walked over. "That's you." "When you were 4 or 5. She smiled. "Aw, how sweet. Look at you." "But it doesn't." I hesitated again, knowing I would sound crazy. "It doesn't, look exactly like me, does it?" "Yeah, you were a goofy-looking kid." She laughed. "You got a lot better looking as you aged." "No, I mean, that photo doesn't look like I did when I was a kid." "Look, see." I held up the photo of me in the Red Sox cap side by side with the photo of the boy in the kitchen. "I think they look identical," she said. "No, they don't. Maybe it's the hat." "Hey, can you help me in the attic? There's a lot of stuff up there." "Sure. I'll be there in a second." She smiled at me and turned away. I listened to her bare footsteps recede on the carpet. Then I snapped the photo album shut and put it back. I tucked the photo in my pocket. Then I walked back into my mom's room and opened the closet. There were more. When I took down the hat box to search under it, the top came off, revealing an entire trove of photographs. I picked up a few of them and my heart dropped. A kid hunched over a birthday cake with 4 candles, smiling. Me. Except not me. The same toothy grin, the same wide-set blue eyes. A kid standing in the front yard, pointing to a frog. My front yard. Again, not me. And then there was a photo that made my heart stop. A photo of my bed. I still remembered those covers, with the sports cars on them. The pillow with the wheel on it. The car lamp. But there, sitting on the bed. Not one little boy. 2. "Adam," my mom's voice came from above. I stared at the photo, frozen. Me, sitting next to a little boy that looked almost exactly like me. A twin? A brother? I had no memory of this kid. All my life, I'd believed I was an only child. Adam! The stack of photos was a few inches thick. There was no way I could go through them all. I slipped several in my pocket, replaced the hat box, and then headed down the hall. Coming, Mom! I started up the ladder, and my phone began to ring. The theme to Legend of Zelda played its tune. I stopped 2 stairs up and slipped the phone out of my pocket. Caller ID, Ollie. My wife. Yeah. Can you get me a drink, too? Sure, I said. What do you want me to pick up on the way back? The usual whiskey? On the way back? Yeah. On the way back from my mom's. I'll be here another hour or 2. You're at your mom's? She asked. Her voice suddenly soft, confused. Yeah, why? I don't understand. I just let you inside the house, she said. You're down in the kitchen, making us drinks. Aren't you? The phone slipped from my hands. I stumbled down, snatched it up. My heart pounded in my ears. Ollie, that's not me. I think I have a twin. You need to lock the doors. A twin? Adam, that's Ollie? His voice. It sounded just like mine. Yet, there was something off about it, something I couldn't quite place. Like listening to a slightly out-of-tune piano. Lock the door! I shouted into the phone. A heartbeat of silence. Then hurried footfalls as she ran over to the door. Click. You locked it? I asked, weakly. I did. Her voice was trembling. I crumpled against the wall, relief flooding me. I'm going to call the police, okay? But if you can get out the window or something. Adam, my mom shouted down from the attic. Are you coming up anytime this year? Just a second. I shouted back. Okay, she said, skeptically. I pressed myself into the closet. Must filled my nose as I pulled the doors shut in front of me, pressing me in. Ollie? Are you still there? Are you okay? I whispered. I'm trying to get out the window, she whispered back. It's a long drop, but... Muffled knocking sounds through the speakers. Ollie? I heard him call. I shuddered. Hearing him say my wife's name made my skin crawl. I'm calling the police. Do anything you can to stay away from him. I disconnected the call and dialed the police. When I was assured they'd send someone over, I took a deep breath and opened the closet door. And froze. Mom was standing right outside. Who were you talking to? She demanded. I stepped back, rustling against a row of sweaters. Fear swept through me, but then curiosity, anger took over. I have a twin brother. Her eyes widened. Then her face crumpled, and she closed her eyes. I never, how did you? He's at my house. Right now. I pushed past her. He's with Ollie? She clapped a hand over her mouth. That told me all I needed to know. You need to call the police, she called after me. I did, I shouted back as I ran down the stairs. I pulled the phone out of my pocket and dialed Ollie's number again. 5 rings, then went right to voicemail. I ran into the driveway. Yanked open the front door, dove inside. Mom got in the passenger seat. Mom? I know him better than anyone, she said, not looking at me. The engine rumbled to life underneath us. I screeched out onto the road. A few minutes of silence passed between us. Then she spoke. I did it for your safety. I scoffed. For my safety. Yeah, right. And now my wife is at the hands of a psychopath. I swung onto the highway, pushing my foot on the accelerator. Why did you really do it? Why did you really tell me all my life that I was an only child? Because you are. Mom. I only gave birth to one little boy. She took in a shuddering breath, then let it out. He showed up on our doorstep one day. Nowhere to go. Your father being religious and all wanted to take him in. He said the poor little boy got lost in the woods and it was our duty to care for him until his family was found. So we adopted him. That doesn't even make sense. Let me finish, she snapped, with sudden anger. We contacted the police, everyone, trying to locate his family. All our searches turned up empty. It was like he just popped out of thin air. In my peripheral vision, I could see her turn to me, her expression grim. And that day, we took him in. I swear he didn't look a thing like you. I don't understand. The change was so gradual, it was hard to notice. In the span of a year, his hair had gone from brown to blonde. His face had gone from gaunt and pointed to round and full. Whenever I brought it up with your dad, he was always belligerent about it. He's been playing in the sun a lot. He was so skinny when he got here, he's gained weight, of course that's going to make his face look different. A drizzle started, flecking the windshield with bits of rain. I turned on the wipers, they squeaked against the glass. Then your dad started saying things that didn't make any sense. Like, one time I ordered a big meal at a restaurant. He laughed and said, "Are you eating for 3 again?" And he'd say here and there, when you were pregnant with the twins, it was like he truly believed Alaric was our genetic son. With a shaking hand, I clicked on my turn signal and veered towards the exit. Why don't I remember him? Was there some sort of traumatic event, or? You still don't remember the day your father died, do you? No. He fell down the stairs, didn't he? I'd left you and Alaric with him while I went to the grocery store. When I came back, her voice cracked with emotion. You were crying. You didn't remember anything. Alaric, on the other hand, well, he was acting like an angel, like he always did. But he had this smile on his face. She let out a breath. It was at that moment I knew that he had something to do with it. I put him up for adoption and tried my best to erase him from our lives. Her words hung heavy in the silence. She pulled out her phone, tapping at it, then frowned. Ollie's still not picking up. Doesn't matter. We'll be there in a minute, I said, dread sinking in my gut. I swung onto our street. As the houses flashed by, my heart pounded faster. Ollie, please be okay. The little blue colonial came into view, with the hydrangeas and 2 little garden gnomes. I pulled into the driveway, halted to a stop. Pushed open the doors and ran inside. Ollie? I yelled. The house was quiet. Too quiet. Ollie! I screamed. I raced up the stairs, Mom running behind me. Turned the corner. The door to our bedroom was wide open. No. Shards of glass littered the floor. A puddle of whiskey stained the carpet. The window was open, curtains fluttering in the breeze. But the room was empty. He's got her. Oh, God, he's got her. I sunk to my knees. The world reeled around me. If he killed my dad, I couldn't bear to think of the horrible things he would do to my Ollie. Tears stung my eyes. I have no idea where they went. No way to find out. No way, the Legend of Zelda tune filled the room. Slowly, with shaking hands, I picked up the phone. Unknown number. Hello? Hello, Adam. My voice. The exact same tone and timbre. And yet the restrained glee I heard in it was completely different. Alaric, I know everything. Please, don't hurt Ollie. I'll think about it, he replied, casually. Please, don't. I think we should meet. Brother to brother. What do you say? At the old arcade, where we used to play together. I only remembered playing at that arcade alone. Only if you let Ollie go, I said, my voice shaking. I'll think about it, brother. The way he said brother sent chills down my spine. Please. Don't do anything to her. A pause. If you're willing to come here alone, no police, no mom, then, maybe, I'll give you Ollie. Relief flooded me. I pocketed the phone and looked up at Mom. She was frozen by the window. What did he say? She whispered. He wants me to meet him. Her eyes widened. No, you can't. She grabbed my arm and clung to me, pulling me back as I tried to step out of the room. He'll kill you. And he'll somehow get away with it. He's got Ollie, Mom. I don't have a choice. I ran down the stairs, then ducked into the basement. I opened our small gun safe and pulled out a revolver. Then I said goodbye to my mother. We hugged in silence on the driveway, too afraid to actually speak the words. Then, with one last wave, I peeled out of the neighborhood. The arcade had been abandoned for at least a decade. Weeds popped up in the cracks of the parking lot, slowly crawling towards the building. Chunks of brick crumbled off the exterior and the windows were broken, shards of glass rising up like pointed teeth. A tilted, stained sign still read Neon Arcade. Chain-link fencing surrounded the condemned building, but the gate hung open. I pocketed the revolver. Then I walked towards the building, slipping through the gate. A raven cawed and took flight. I entered the building. The inside was dark. The only light came from a large hole in the ceiling over an old Pac-Man machine. I slipped my hand in my pocket, fingers wrapping around the gun. "I'm here," I called out, my voice echoing in the dust. "Now give me Ollie." A strangled whimper from somewhere behind me. I whipped out the gun and reeled around, but there was only darkness. Only rows of dusty old video games that would never see another player. Only a claw machine filled with moth-eaten animals, faded beyond recognition. "Alaric!" I shouted. A rustle. And then Ollie burst out in front of me. She stumbled into the aisle, her hands tied behind her back, a gag over her mouth. I ran to her, untying her wrists as she cried behind the gag. As soon as they were free, I pressed my keys in her hands. "Run. Take my car. Get as far away as you can." And she ripped the gag off. "He's behind you, Adam." I wheeled around. I was looking at me. Yet it wasn't me. The man standing in the darkness of the arcade was the same height as me, with the same skinny build. But the way he stood so still, staring at me with gleaming eyes, that wasn't me. I'm not sure it was even human. "Go," I whispered to Ollie. "I can't." "Go." She gave me one last, pleading look before running out of the arcade. I turned around to face Alaric. The aisle was empty. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the revolver. I held it in front of me, aiming, my hands shaking. "Looking for me, brother?" He was standing right behind me. I was staring into my own blue eyes. Although, this close, with his face inches from mine, I could see slight differences. Just like in the photographs. His eyes were a hair too far apart. His cheeks were slightly thinner. He was missing the scar on my chin that I'd gotten falling off a bike in 5th grade. And then he grabbed me. Pain shot through my body as he shoved me to the ground. The gun slipped out of my hands, skittered across the floor. His lips, my lips twisted into a horrible smile. Before I could move, he was crouching down to the stained carpet, reaching for the gun. "No." Ollie's voice. "No, no, Ollie." I lunged forward and grabbed the gun. "Ollie, get out of here." I screamed as I stumbled up. I whirled around, but I couldn't see either of them. Rapid footsteps sounded in the next aisle, but I had no idea who they belonged to. And then, silence. "Ollie?" I whispered, my voice shaking. Silence. "Alaric?" Thump. Motion caught my eye. But what I saw in my peripheral vision was not Ollie or Alaric. It was tall. Incredibly tall. Its fur, or skin, was pitch black, the color of the sky on a moonless night. Its arms hung at its sides, so long they nearly dragged on the floor. And its face was a scrambled mess of human features. Several eyes, all different colors, blinking rapidly. 2 mouths, oriented vertically. Opening like gills on the side of its face. Then my eyes focused on it and the creature instantly condensed into my own form. I took a deep breath. Aimed. And pulled the trigger. Snap. Alaric stumbled. And then he collapsed. I ran over to him, panting, the revolver shaking in my hands. A stain grew on his chest, but it was a deep, colorless black. Not red. He looked up at me, with my blue eyes, and his mouth twisted into a smile. "Brother." That was the only word he managed to get out before his eyes glazed over. It's been almost 6 years since that day at the arcade. Ollie was waiting for me outside, unharmed. Despite the loud gunshot, the police never showed up at my door. But I did see a little article a few weeks later, tucked away on a local news website. Some urban explorers broke into the arcade and found tufts of fur and bones that weren't easily recognizable. Being reasonable people, they turned the stuff over to the local cryptid society instead of, a lab or something. Now there's a resurgence of Bigfoot sightings in our town. But life for us has been pretty amazing. Ollie and I sold our house and moved a few towns over, to a rural little cottage nestled in the woods. And then we found out we were pregnant. Now we have an incredible 4-year-old named Ava and 2 tabby cats, Anna and Elsa. You can guess who named the cats. Sometimes I think back to that day. What would have happened if Alaric killed me? Our wonderful little Ava never would have been born. Ollie would have been a widow. Or even worse, maybe Ollie wouldn't have been. Maybe Alaric, or whatever that thing was, would have come back home and pretended to be me. Just the thought sends shivers up my spine. I'm going to bed, Ollie says, leaning over to kiss me. Are you sure you can't come up? Nah, I have to finish this. It's due on Monday, and I'm not going to get any work done tomorrow, with my mom visiting and all. She grins at me. Your mom is such a good grandma. She spoils Ava a little, if you ask me. Ollie laughs and heads up the stairs. I listen to her footsteps fade, then transform into the sound of creaking boards above me. I sigh and turn back to my computer. It's near midnight when I hear it. Thunk, thunk, thunk. 3 knocks at the front door. Soft and polite. I frown, slowly getting up from my chair. Did Mom decide to come tonight, instead of tomorrow morning? She'd surprised us a few times like that before. But never so late at night. I walk over to the door and peer through the peephole. My blood runs cold. It's a little girl, standing on our porch. Hands tucked into her pockets, humming to herself. Smiling as she stares at the door. Dark hair, pale skin. And about 4 years old, just like Ava.